Greetings everyone, John Fia here from the History Department at Messiah College. Welcome to the virtual office hours, Evangelical History Edition, episode 12. Megan Piet is behind the camera, got the founding fathers with me. This is our final office hours in this series on George Marsden's book, Fundamentalism in American Culture. I don't know what the students have been thinking about the book. I'm going to probably ask them maybe what they thought about it next class. But I've been thoroughly enjoying going back and looking at this book and reading this book again. I think I've read it now maybe 4 or 5 times, but this is, I think I've said it in previous office hours, this is the first time I've ever had a chance to teach it. So I've been enjoying rethinking some of Marsden's arguments. We ended the book, the narrative part of the book at least. We're now looking at the interpretive essays at the end. But the final chapter deals with the Scopes trial. And for those of you unfamiliar with the Scopes trial is probably the only thing in most American history textbooks today. The only thing about fundamentalism that gets into the narrative of American history is the Scopes trial, which is, in some ways a fundamentalist victory in the smallest sense, in the sense that John Scopes, this man who's teaching evolution in Dayton, Tennessee, is actually convicted of violating the anti-evolution law in the town. But of course, more importantly, this is a massive showdown, a cultural showdown in the 1920s between the forces of science, the forces of evolution, and the fundamentalist movement. Clarence Darrow representing the defense, he's defending John Scopes. William Jennings Bryan, the great hero of fundamentalism, the great populist, man of the people, 3-time presidential candidate representing or prosecuting Scopes. Most of you are familiar with the story. Marsden lays it out very well. William Jennings Bryan is put on the stand. He pretty much makes a fool out of himself. He's unable to answer the pressing questions about biblical authority and the flood and evolution and creation that Darrow points his way. Again, I'm sure you can get caught up reading about the Scopes trial. There's a lot of good books on it. But for our purposes and for Marsden's purposes, the Scopes trial is presented as a turning point. Right? After 1925, despite the fact that John Scopes is convicted, in the minds of the public, fundamentalism is looked at as backward, it's looked at as anti-intellectual. And fundamentalism, and this is the argument both of Marsden and then expanded greatly by a historian named Joel Carpenter in a book called Revive Us Again. I think the subtitle is The Renewal of American Fundamentalism. Maybe we'll get that up there on the screen. Fundamentalism doesn't disappear. Fundamentalism goes underground, it becomes a subculture, and throughout much of the 1930s it actually is quite vibrant in continuing to preach the evangelical message, the gospel message, and fighting for the Christian civilization. The only problem is now that they are no longer at the center of American religious life. They are now doing it from the margins, and I think it's the Scopes trial that is a turning point, a pivotal point in that transition. We are now moving on to Molly Worthen's book on the evangelical movement over the course of the last 70 or 80 years or so, and we'll pick up the story of post-Scopes fundamentalism after that. But again, the key takeaway here is post-1925, fundamentalists are driven from the denominations, they're driven from the centers of intellectual life, and they're forced to form their own subculture, which in many ways becomes the roots of what today might be called the evangelical subculture in America. We'll expand a little more on that next time, and thanks for watching.